I woke up with ice in my mouth. Not metaphorical, real ice. Snow packed against my teeth, melting into blood. The world above me was white and quiet, the kind of quiet that feels intentional, like the earth is holding its breath, waiting for you to decide whether to live. My phone vibrated in my pocket. Once, twice. I couldn't move my legs. The crash had twisted the car into a kneeling animal, headlights buried in a drift. Somewhere far away, a siren tried and failed to matter. I answered without looking. Champagne popped on the other end. Laughter. A man's voice I knew too well. My deputy's laugh. Confident, careless. The sound of a man who thought the future was already signed over to him. My wife's voice slid in, warm and unashamed. To new beginnings. They didn't know I was listening. They didn't know I was alive. The call ended with a kiss. Not a long one, a celebratory peck. Efficient, like signing a receipt. I lay there, staring into falling snow, and understood something with perfect clarity. They had already buried me. All that remained was paperwork. They told the town I was in critical condition. They told my staff to prepare contingencies. They told my son to be strong. They told each other the truth. I listened from a hospital bed with tubes in my throat and a monitor keeping time like a metronome for lies. My wife never visited alone. My deputy always found a reason to be nearby, checking security, managing affairs that had never required his hands before. Her hand never shook when she signed forms. That was my first mistake, thinking grief announces itself. I watched the choreography, the way they never touched in public, but moved like magnets when they thought no one was watching. The way she corrected doctors with details she hadn't asked me for in years. I remembered the phone call in the snow. I remembered the toast. And denial tried to save me, briefly. I told myself there was context, a misunderstanding, a moment stretched by shock. But the mind is a courtroom, and evidence has weight. At night, when machines hummed and my body pretended to rest, I replayed every small dismissal I had ignored, every late meeting, every time my deputy spoke for me. I had built an empire on foresight. I had missed the theft happening in my own house. I healed quietly. That was important. They expected weakness, gratitude, a man softened by proximity to death. I gave them smiles and silence instead. Let them think the snow had finished its work. From my bed, I requested phone records. Insurance, I said. No one questions a man who almost died. I ordered a forensic copy of my wife's old tablet, one she thought was wiped and sold. I hired a firm in Zurich before I could walk, another in Singapore before I could stand. I watched. I listened. I learned that champagne had been bought with my card, that the suite had been reserved under my deputy's initials, that the joke they shared, corpse, wasn't a metaphor, it was a plan. They had drafted succession emails. They had practiced my eulogy. I moved back into the house and became a ghost that made coffee in the morning. I kissed my wife's cheek like a habit returning to its hook. I thanked my deputy for his loyalty. Inside, the storm refined itself. Strategy doesn't shout, it waits. When Thanksgiving approached, my daughter-in-law called. Her voice carried entitlement like perfume. "If you want to join Thanksgiving," she said, "come wash the dishes." I looked at the Alps on my screen, sunlight cutting marble into gold. "Enjoy," I said, and ended the call. The report arrived on a Tuesday. I didn't open it immediately. I made tea. I stood by the window. I let the moment be clean. Then I read. Dates, locations, messages, photos that weren't intimate but didn't need to be. The architecture of betrayal is precise. It leaves footprints. I invited them both to dinner. No accusations, no tone. I placed the report on the table between the salt and the bread. I didn't push it toward them. I didn't have to. My wife went pale first. My deputy tried to speak. I raised a finger. "Read," I said. They did. Silence is honest when it has nowhere to hide. "I know," I added gently, "about the toast." My wife cried, not loudly, carefully, the way she did when she wanted to be believed. I sipped my tea. Revenge isn't loud when it's done correctly. I had already transferred controlling interests into trusts they couldn't touch. I had already named interim boards that answered to me alone. I had already booked a villa overlooking water so blue it looked unreal. I slid 2 envelopes across the table. One was a severance package, generous, conditional on silence. The other was a resignation letter already accepted. My deputy's hands shook. My wife asked me if there was anything she could do. I thought of the snow, the champagne. "No," I said, "there was. You did it." That night, I posted photos, not of them, of my life continuing, clean lines, open skies. Switzerland doesn't argue, it just endures. The phone rang. Once, 10 times, 71. I didn't answer. Power doesn't feel like triumph, it feels like quiet. I walk through rooms that echo with my footsteps alone. I eat when I'm hungry. I sleep without dreaming of ice. From here, the past looks smaller, like a model you can lift with 2 fingers. They wanted me dead. Instead, I became absent. There's a difference they'll never learn. The snow didn't take me. It showed me who deserved to be buried.